What is going on, guys? We are finally back. Another episode of our trade breakdown series. In today's episode, I'm going to be walking you guys through exactly how I made a little bit over $4,000 trading calls on Coinbase. I'm going to be walking you guys through this trade step by step and showing you how you can use this exact setup in the future. Let's get into it right now. All right, guys, welcome back to another episode. As always, if you guys are enjoying these free trade breakdown videos, don't forget to slam that like button down below. And per usual, guys, this was recorded and traded live inside the Discord. If you'd like to join us for daily live streams and daily live trading, you can use the link down below in the replies and enter code COIN30 and take 30% off your first month inside the chat. We'll see you guys there. All right, guys, with that being said, let's get right into it. You guys know the deal, straight to business. This was a beautiful A+ setup that we had on Coinbase, guys, this past Wednesday, November 15th. So if you're following along, guys, I'm going to be on the daily 4-hour, hourly, and 15-minute chart from Coinbase. This past Wednesday, November 15th, might be helpful if you'd like to follow along. Really, like I said, guys, the best way to utilize these trade breakdown videos is to kind of walk through the trade side by side with me. So if you are charting on your own platform, just do your best to follow along. I think it'll make the most sense that way, and you guys will be able to apply this likely to other setups that you see. As I said, guys, this was an A+ setup that I actually covered on the pre-market live for the Discord. So about 25 minutes before market open, I went over this exact setup, guys, and it was a 4-hour trend setup, which I talked about right here. We are directly on top of this 4-hour trend. Okay, it's going to be very important to watch and see how we react today. And that is what we are going to be covering today. It is so important, guys, to understand where the trade comes from. We talk about it all the time, guys, but before you enter a trade, you need to know these three things, right? Is it your A+ setup? What are your targets going to be and take profit points? And what is your risk on the trade going to be, right? Those are the three non-negotiable aspects of an A+ setup for me, guys. And when we kind of come into this Coinbase setup, we have to really come out and start to look at the daily, right? We clearly had a nice, clean daily uptrend going on here. And we're going to look at the 4-hour chart in particular. As you guys saw on the pre-market live, I noted that on Wednesday morning, we were coming in right into this 4-hour trend, right? If you look at the Coinbase 4-hour, right, you can see that we were coming into this 4-hour trend line that we have been riding, right, all the way since we kind of put in a low back here on October 30th. So this daily or 4-hour uptrend, whichever time frame you'd like to primarily utilize. We've had a really nice uptrend ongoing here, right? Dating all the way back to the end of October and in the early part of November, right? You'll see a very similar 4-hour trends on a lot of stocks right now, just because of the general market direction that we've been in. But point being, this was a uptrend that has been in place now for nearly, 3 weeks almost, right? So this is definitely a really clean uptrend in terms of the higher time frame aspect. And guys, a core part of my system, right, is trading within the trend, right? These trend line opportunities really present fantastic A+ setups a lot of the time, and they're a setup that I go to often. So really, the number one first focus point of this video is going to be utilizing those daily and 4-hour trends. And then, like I said, on the pre-market live, we had to come into the tighter time frames, right? But when we come out to the hourly chart here on Coinbase, and we look at that trend that we were coming into on Wednesday morning, and it was very clear that we were going to get either, a clean bounce and push up off that directional bounce off that 4-hour and hourly trend into the open. So as you guys can see, obviously Coin had a huge move on Wednesday. We actually think we're up almost 7%. But the primary point that I want to cover here is where were my take profits and risk on this trade, right? So in this case, guys, on Coinbase, I knew my risk was going to be this 92 area. As we can see that it was a major kind of area hourly support, right? If we come out here to the hourly and go all the way back kind of into the earlier part of November, right, you can see these larger scale wicks down to this hourly level at 92 in that 92.40 zone. So I was really going to be looking to risk on this trade 92.50. My ideal entry point was a wick off 93, some type of liquidity trap on the first 15 minutes. We got exactly that, and we're going to get into that in a minute. But as you guys can see, I was really looking for that 92.50, 93 area to be tested, and then a move towards that larger scale resistance here at that 96 zone, right? And as I also detailed on the pre-market live, I was looking for a test of that 96 level and a break of 100, which I talked about right here. Today, obviously, we're pushing towards that 94 area, really the 96 resistance is going to be key. This is getting very, very tight, and I think this likely makes a move today, tomorrow at the latest. And we actually hit both of those take profit points. Now, before I entered this trade, guys, my take profit points were relatively simple. My first take profit point was a test of Tuesday's high. So our prior day's high was my take profit 1. Okay, that is very, very important, guys. I scale out my positions usually in either 25 or 30% increments. And so this is take profit 1, where I usually look to scale, usually 30+% of my position. And then I'm going to look to scale about 75% of my position at take profit 2, which was going to be in this larger scale area of resistance up here towards this 97 zone. And then I was going to be looking for a move towards the top point of these wicks, which was at that 100 psych level, right? So those are my 3 take profit points on this trade. So before I entered the trade, I had my risk lined out at 92.5, and I had my take profit point set at 95.50, 97.13, and that 100 psychological resistance level. So as we now progress into actually executing on the trade, right? Because your preparation and planning is the #1 goal, right? I talk about it all the time, guys. Without a plan and preparation, you're going to be useless out there. And so they are, two of the things that I prioritize, more than anything, right? That way, when you actually get into the trade, it is all just robotic execution, right? I know I'm selling a third of my position here, right? I'm going to move up my stop loss now to break even. I'm looking for second take profit at 97, and then my third take profit at 100, right? So now that we have our take profit points and risk mapped out, it came down to execution, and this was the 15-minute chart from Wednesday morning. So if you're following along, again, we are 11:15, the coin 15-minute, right? You guys can see first 15-minute candle, guys. We swept liquidity towards these pre-market lows, had a really nice 15-minute, strong 15-minute candle close with good volume at 9:45. So at that point, I actually took the entry on the position, followed according to my plan. We got that liquidity sweep at those pre-market lows, towards pre-market lows, really strong wick off. I took a 55 contract position on the coin 105 calls at $35 per contract. At that point, like I said, 9:48 in the morning, so 3 minutes after this first 15-minute candle close, we got a beautiful move, guys, right off that hourly trend line. We pushed up directly into my take profit 1, guys, on the following 15-minute candles. So sometimes my trades take 30 minutes to an hour, guys. Sometimes they validate and go to take profit 1 in 5 or 10 minutes, right? In this case, guys, we got an immediate move. We broke our pre-market highs and we pushed right into that first take profit point, which was Tuesday's highs, right? So our prior day's high at 95.50, I scaled about 35% of my position at that take profit 1 point, guys, for a little bit over 65% return on those contracts. We actually continued to ramp right into that 97 level on those following 15-minute candles, guys, which if we zoom out, right, we knew that we were going to have some resistance up here because of these larger scale wicks that we had on the hourly, right? It is really important to note, we talked about that hourly resistance coming into play at 97, right? Look at where we swept liquidity on these 2 hourly candles back on 11.9. It was very evident that we were going to have some resistance at that 97 level. That was why it was my take profit 2. Right? In that case, guys, take profit 2 is really where I'm scaling the majority of my position. That is probably, my most important take profit point in the majority of my trades. And so we got to take profit 2. I scaled about 60 to 65% of my position at this point. We were up just a little bit over 135% at that point, guys. And what this allowed me to do, being deep in profit on this trade, I was able to let the last 1/3 of my position run all the way to that third and final take profit point at that 100 level. And I was actually able to roll up into a further strike with some profits, which allowed me to compound gains on this trade, guys. Always beneficial. And like I said, when you have a really strong momentum move off of an A+ setup like this, I'm, absolutely a fan of rolling up and, moving stops to break even. That is also a key, guys. What allows me to let my winners run like this, and as you guys can see, I closed out about 90% of my position on coin for a little bit over 200% on those 105 calls. They were over $100 per contract from a $35 per contract entry. What allowed me to do that, guys, is I just kept continually moving up my stop loss to now my entry, which allows me to let 1/3 of my position ride pretty much risk-free. That knowing that I've already locked in a ton of profits on this trade. And like I said, was able to let that ride. I closed out 90% of my position towards that 100 point. We had a lot of trouble with that 100 resistance towards the end of the day. As you can see, we had these really, really large scale wicks towards that 100 spot. So I actually scaled 95% of my position. I held on to a couple of runners, which I ended up selling the next morning. But overall, guys, this was a little bit over $4,000 in profit. I was in runners basically the majority of the day on this trade, but those were pretty much stress-free. I was able to go on about my day, play 9 holes, and let some coin runners run. And that is the beauty of A+ setups and having a plan and preparation going into a trade, guys. This was an absolutely beautiful A+ setup that I wanted to highlight for you all. Take advantage of 4-hour and hourly trends. Utilize them to your advantage. Pay attention to those liquidity points. Set your take profits and let the trade work. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this trade recap and extracted some value. I will see you guys on the next episode. Have a fantastic day. Peace.